Hello and welcome to the Overkill Podcast number 32. I'm Meta and I'm here with the boy Kirby.
Yo, yo.
We are continuing the theme of last week of shorter episodes and more interesting topics. So I guess we'll start with something that I think is really cool, and this is a game that I never played, but I did see a lot of, and it's a game called Croc. The original game is called Croc: Legend of Gobos, and it was released on PlayStation, the Sega Saturn, and Windows. It is a collectathon kind of game, and it almost looks like it was made by Rare. But what I wanted to bring up is y'all should definitely go check it out. But the studio got back together and they started working on remastering the PS1 Croc. Apparently, this is something people are very happy for, and so am I. Because this game looks absolutely amazing, baby. It's so funny because apparently people in the studio were saying, a crock of shite. I hear it's a crock of shite. It seems like it's one of those games that kind of had a cult following, but it probably wasn't that good. So I can totally see in a remaster them mixing it up and actually making it a playable game. Are there any games that you think that happened to? I can think of a few that got glow ups.
Well, yeah, but I definitely a game that I would like to see remastered is Bugsy 3D. Bugsy 3D.
Based.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And Gex, of course.
Oh yeah, well Gex is actually good.
Yeah.
Bubsy 3D is a meme.
Yeah, well, unless you're that one guy that's played it for 30,000 hours. It's the best game in the world, dude.
Yeah, I mean, basically I'm wondering if this is going to be like more of a Crash Bandicoot style remake, or if it's just going to be more of like a upscaling kind of thing.
Yeah, there's not much info on it. They're saying a remaster? So I almost assume it's going to be an upscaling, but if you ever see gameplay of it, it definitely needs like some revision of like some of the platforming stages because it looks pretty rough. The original company is Argonaut Games. And it looks pretty cool. 1993. But yeah, like some of these levels you can tell it's like old where the pathway is like 10 feet wide, right? But the platform that like you need to ride upward is like, is like 6, and it just kind of looks out of place. Where like the platform's coming out of this larger platform, and then underneath that platform is just lava for some. I don't know. It's got these strange design choices. And then in another level, there are like these things coming out. It's like an Egyptian level. There are like pillars coming out of like a dark void from somewhere, which I think is something that like is not in modern games that I can really think of. Just having a random dark void. Usually that's expected to be animated now. And then of course some of the fights happen in like these obvious 3D arenas where like it's supposed to be all wooded, but instead they just like put a flat surface with a tree texture on it. So
yeah, also with these like with the older games, it seems like it's one of the like maybe one of the first PlayStation games to do this, but where like they actually use the analog stick because the original PlayStation only had a D-pad. And then they came out with controllers that had analog sticks. But also, the remake might improve the analog input, not have it be so sluggish or
Right.
You know, because I think this game might run at 30 on PlayStation 1. I'm not too sure.
Oof. That's tough, son.
A lot of older games. I know some of the like N64 games. I believe in Mario 64 ran at like 20 frames. Which, oof.
Nasty. He's also cute as hell. Croc is adorable. But yeah, that's my big story I wanted to bring up. I'm excited. I don't know if there's a way I can get my hands on it. But...
yeah.
I'll hand it off to you, my guy.
Well, my big story is this whole week I've been kind of I watched. Well, while I was at work, I was watching a few things about Black Ops 6. Mainly, I watched the Call of Duty Next. I watched part of it, and then I just watched a video that like summarized it because I'm not gonna. It's like a 4-hour long live stream. It seems like they've added a lot of features to this game. Mainly, obviously, the Omni movement. We've finally gotten some actual gameplay from streamers and content creators, and as well as just like random people, because the beta is finally out. Of course, it's the pre-ordered beta, but all the exclusivity is gone, so no matter what platform you're on, you can play it.
Finally.
The same, I think that's the biggest thing, because like PC people are playing it. Everyone's playing it right now. Right. It's not like a PlayStation only beta. So far, I think the main takeaways are there's a lot of quality of life features, and a lot of like the clutter and stuff on these maps that I've seen. It's very minimal.
I see that. Yeah.
The game in general to me looks minimal, but that kind of makes sense because it's supposed to be like 1990s, like Cold War kind of stuff.
The maps look way more classic.
Yes, yeah. They said in the interview that basically all the maps are 3 lanes, or at least have like a semi 3-lane design, and there is a lot of variety. I think right now we only have there's only 3 maps in the game. With I think later on in the beta this weekend they're gonna add more, and then week 2 there's gonna be surprisingly there's gonna be 8 maps, and there's 16 maps in the full release. So we'll see half of them, which this is probably the biggest beta they've ever given us, which I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad thing, but but yeah, I mean, to me the game looks really polished. There are a few issues, especially with the balancing. I think it's like the VS9 is like really overpowered. I'm sure they're gonna get like everything fixed whenever they, like, by the time the full game comes out. And one last thing, I think this is something that a lot of people are overlooking. Whenever you like number one, like just moving around and stuff, there's like your character sways and the gun sways a lot, but whenever you die, the camera like swooshes around, and I don't know, I think it's trying to be cinematic, but to me it looks like really disorienting. I don't know if you'll be able to turn that off whenever the full game comes out, but I hope that's an option they add, because I just want it to be like whenever I die, the camera's just still looking at my body. Like, I don't like how it like swooshes around,
There's a lot of swooshing that I've seen from this, just in general. It seems like falling. So like if you vault up on something, and then like fall down from that little distance, you get like you do like a swoosh downward, and it's a little disorienting. But maybe it's just because I'm watching it at bad quality.
Mm-hmm. It's very like weird to see a Treyarch game, because it's clearly like styled like Cold War, but definitely with the movement of Modern Warfare 2019 and like the newer Modern Warfare games, it just looks so
kind
odd.
Of a fever dream. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like whenever Vanguard came out, where it's like Modern Warfare 2019 but World War II. It kind of reminds me of that. It gives me that like same vibe.
Yeah.
Where it's like it looks familiar, but it's like so different. It's like uncanny in a way.
I have to admit, the more I see of this game, the more I am positive on it. Now, do characters have abilities again, or am I imagining that?
No, that's the field upgrade.
Okay.
And the bottom
good.
there, yeah.
So,
yeah.
And they have all the classics. They have like the Arctic Rifle. They have all the guns that you cared about in Black Ops, it seems like. So that's really sick.
I think one complaint, because I haven't played the game yet, I'm considering pre-ordering just so I can play the beta early.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I have heard,
if you hate it.
Yeah. One thing that I have heard that's a little weird is like, apparently the tack sprinting feels like your regular sprint, so that it feels like there's kind of no point in having both. And I think for me that's always been a complaint with all the new modern COD games, where in my opinion, like, you should have one run speed and then there should be walking, right? I think finally people are getting to the point where they're like, okay, there's no point in having regular sprint, right?
Right.
I feel like you should only have one sprint, you know? I don't like how there's like two levels of
because the whole point is like to move fast as possible. And
Yeah.
like I never have seen the value in, I mean, what, your gun gets ready a little faster? It's not like that much faster.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially whenever you have like auto tack sprint on, you're basically going as fast as you can.
Which I never have turned on. I've always just double tapped. But to be honest, I think I always just ended up tack sprinting anyways.
Yeah. Well, I've actually, the craziest thing is I've switched completely to using auto tack sprint on keyboard, which I will admit is very hard to get used to, especially whenever on keyboard you've always been playing with where you have to double tap it.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get used to it, I think it's actually better to have auto tack sprint on.
Is there a way to go into normal sprint when you have it on? Can you double tap to go to normal sprint?
No, you're just always tack sprint. If you have a controller, you can at least you can like move the stick a little bit and you'll walk.
Oh yeah.
Or if your tack sprint is out, you'll do like the regular run. Yeah. I don't know. Every time I see new gameplay of Black Ops 6, and every time I hear something about it, the game seems to be getting more and more interesting. I don't know. We'll have to check it out whenever it comes out.
We will. I'm really positive on these maps that I've seen, especially because that's really what I wouldn't mind the modern games if the maps weren't such dog.
Also, you definitely got to check out the I believe it's like, I can't remember the name of it, but the multiplayer main menu theme is really nice. I think it's called like Reign of Angels or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really good song. It reminds me of like a Black Ops 2 Cold War vibe. I don't know. Oh, Raining the Fire. That's what it's called.
Yeah, you'll check it out. It looks great. Wow. Looks really good. I don't know. I'm becoming slowly positive on this game. The zombies, not so much, because I haven't seen any of that, but like gameplay from the YouTubers yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, the zombies YouTubers have soured over it because
did they go back to old zombies?
They revealed Liberty Falls, and it looks like a multiplayer map with like zombies on it, basically.
Oh no.
But like the whole way the devs have kind of explained it is like, oh, it's the zombie like infestation has just happened in the town. That's why it's like still kind of looks normal-ish.
Right.
Which I don't know. We'll have to see. A lot of people are not happy with that, but I think it's sort of like Terminus Island is supposed to be the main map, right? It's supposed to be the transit.
Okay.
And then the Liberty Falls is supposed to be like the nuke town, right? It's supposed to be like the side map that you can play if you get bored of Terminus, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's how I view it.
Looks promising, which I never thought I'd say. But it does. I guess we'll move on to kind of a sharp turn to an interesting topic that I think. So there's this video I saw on YouTube called "The Pussification of Games," and I sent it to Kirby. And the guy essentially takes 6 games from like 2000s to like 2010, and then compares them to games that he just found on the Xbox Live store, right? The first games that show up.
Okay.
And he compared the backs of the boxes of the old games, and they were always like 2 fists, 2 wheels, whole lot of action, or like explosions, women, this and that, right? And all the old games. And then in the new games, it was like, explore this wonderfully colorful world and make friends along the way with your magical fox creature and, da 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 da. I think it was an interesting video in that it does show that games have gotten kind of soft with their marketing. I do think it is a little unfair because if you compare the more popular games nowadays, they're still the games that are more violent, like COD or, some of the battle royales that existed. So, I mean, it's not exactly a fair comparison, but I will say nowadays there are a lot of games coming out that seem to lack like that real manly element. And then you have things like Gears of War, where like the 6th game was, the games before it were all about like brotherhood and fighting together and like men's morals and all these questions that come up from that, and sacrificing yourself for the greater good. And then the 6th game was basically women, sisterhood. It's it just didn't hit the same.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a problem with having games like that, but I think the market has clearly shown that they just don't do as well.
Yeah, and I actually kind of, I think a good example as well would be, if you look at 2012, Black Ops 2, okay. You have the campaign where basically, like, you have Raul Menendez and you kill his sister, he goes crazy, and he goes on like a massive rampage, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the game, you can like save him, and he like goes into like a psychopathic rampage in his like cell. There's like different endings, but like the I don't think the devs nowadays would do that, because if you look at Modern Warfare 2 2022, 10 years later, the last mission was you fighting against Graves, who turns against you at the end of the game, which, whatever. I kind of could see it coming. You could see it coming because before he betrays you, whenever you're, like, if you have subtitles on, his name is in blue, and then, like, before he betrays you, his name's in red, and you're like, wait a minute, that's only for enemy. It's like, okay, well, you just spoiled that he's, like, turn. Yeah, it was a dumb way, but you're fighting him. You're fighting him in a tank, and you blow up the tank. That's the end of the game, and somehow he survives. I don't know how, but he does. But like that ending, like in Black Ops 2, it's personal. Like you're on top of Raul Menendez, and you can shoot him or save him. Mm-hmm. But like in that game, in Modern Warfare 2, he's in a tank. You don't even see him, right? I don't know. I just feel like that's
right. Well, and then you have things like the No Russian mission.
Yeah, and stuff like that. Yeah.
What's the mission? I think it's in Black Ops where like the 3 guys are hanging from the crane. Or
yeah. Or like just the whole War That War campaign.
What about stabbing? Who gets stabbed in the eye in Black Ops? Oh goodness. Yeah, just things like that. the games have gotten, I would say even the violent games have gotten a little softer, which I don't know if that's good or bad, honestly, but I just don't think they're as raw as before.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think games have gotten pussified?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that, especially with like the the mainly like the modern CODs and the modern battlefields. They used to have like some realism to them. Now it's just like rainbows and colorful stuff. Once the game's out for like 3 months, they start adding that.
Oh yeah.
So I get that. But even in the campaigns, like nowadays, they don't show as much violence. They don't have any missions that would cause like any sort of controversy.
No, I think,
Right.
I think what kind of proves this point that people want this is there are still a lot of people that play Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
There are people that are like, I'm not gonna play this modern stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have gotten a little softer, but the best games are still the most violent or real games, I guess you could say, or more kind of aimed at men games. And this ties in perfectly with our next story, dude.
Yeah. So, I was just browsing on YouTube and I came across this guy who was like the most woke game ever. That was the title, and I clicked on it and I was like, as soon as I like saw gameplay, or not even gameplay, but as soon as you see like the image of this game called Dustborn,
Oh goodness.
you can tell it's DEI, it's everything. And I thought the funniest thing was like, I was like, okay, is this like a high profile game? Because I'd never heard of it. And I go on Steam and it's got like 70 reviews, and I'm like, oh, and it was out for like 8 days. I was like, all right, this is like a meme game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure who the developers are of it.
So it
Well,
was funded by a government.
Well, really?
It was
Why are you
funded
finding that
by
out?
the Norwegian Film Institute for
Oh.
14 million kroner, or 1.4 million USD.
Oh,
This is
dude.
also for 150,000 euros from the Creative EU grant program. Great. So the
Oh,
EU is
my.
funding this shit.
That
Well,
makes sense. So, as of the writing of the article I'm looking at, there are only 35 people playing it right now. The all-time peak was 83 people were playing it. So,
yikes.
yikes, dude. $4 million basically washed down the drain.
Not only that. So I don't think we've even covered the premise of the game. The game starts out with you driving through a concrete wall driving through a concrete gate past a concrete wall where you have to get like checked in to enter into the state or the country, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Obviously this game is alluding to Trump. I think we can't hide from that, because the whole marketing always says, fighting the fascist government or whatever, and the American flag has been replaced with red and white stripes and then one big star. So
Yeah.
if that isn't clear enough, then I would like to torture you with a little bit of the lyrics from the opening song that they play. And this song is sung by a hipster guy, a lesbian black woman, a clearly trans person, and a large, I don't know what race, girl. The song lyrics are, just a few of them because I don't want to torture you. We're the aliens, we're the refugees, we walk among you, we're right behind you. Your time is past, your kind won't last, We're the Dustborn. This bug is airborne. We're the new porn. Our kind is newborn. Fantastic rhyming porn and newborn. Very nice. So, kind of a violent game.
Bro.
They say we will eclipse you and that you're past due.
Huh.
Now, there's also a famous sequence going around where you're in like a diner and there are two, what's obviously implied as police, and you're playing as the black lesbian character. And one of the cops asked, hey, your black friend out there that rides the bike, the motorcycle, they might know something. And there's a quick time event where if you press triangle fast enough, you can yell, you're racist at him. And it says in a little window at the top, it says something like, impose your will as these cops seem to be uncomfortable about race or something. So the whole game is about using your race, being racist, treating people like shit, and basically we know what it's advocating for.
Basically, the Levian Satanist model, which is do as thou wilt.
Yeah.
Which is, the opposite of the Christian message, which is do God's will, not your will, But whatever.
Yep. I don't know if you have anything else on it, but I said my piece. I had all that queued up. I don't know how much of this shithole you've watched, but I've watched.
No, I think I've just watched like the scene where they're like driving in the car and then they get stopped by the police. Maybe that's like the only thing I've seen. But like I gotta say, like the facial animations are pretty bad.
They tried to do like a Borderlands cell shaded.
Yeah, but then they like
aesthetic, but they did it so poorly.
They tried to make like the lips so animated. I think that's like the main problem. Is like it's cell shaded, but then they made like the lips way too animated. I don't know. It's
a very strange game.
Yeah, and just like the animations are so stiff and stuff like that. I mean, whenever I first saw it, I knew it was like a what do you call it? Like a AA game,
Mm-hmm.
Like a pretty small studio, I guess. But I mean, $4 million, that's a lot.
Well, and I know a few leftists and liberals, and I have to say, none of them would even find this cool. I mean, you have to acknowledge this is cringe.
Yeah.
You have to. I don't care if you agree with it or not. It's so cringe.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, the only people who are going to play this are going to be, like, far, far leftist, And then, like, people who are normal who, like, are into politics, want to meme on it, yeah. But even then, like, you're supporting it, Like, I would pirate it. That's the only...
Beast. Yeah, I don't even know if it's worth pirating.
True.
Well, I guess if we got nothing else, we'll move on. Because this next story also ties into it. This is a whole WWE WrestleMania of politics. Alyssa Marcante. Everyone's favorite. As you may know her, the Gamergate girl. The one of the senior editors at Kotaku, and she's worked at Games Radar.
Isn't she at G-Force?
Hmm?
Or G4, right?
Yes, yeah, she's at G4 now. And she had a big long rant about how everyone can fuck off if they don't like, women in games again. And she basically admitted that she has finally started up her lawsuit. And she's been firing shots at Asmongold all week, calling him smelly. Asmon was going to play Power Wash Simulator, and she retweeted someone that's like, that's going to take a lot of spraying or something. So here's what she said. It's been nearly 6 months since my SBI report and the start of the GG harassment campaign. During this time, I've been gathering info and seeking advice from lawyers and can finally confirm that I'm moving forward with legal action against several parties for doxing /harassment and defamation. I'm funding this myself, but I'll probably have to create a GoFundMe to help with expenses. Appreciate you all for your support. Now, no one should be doxing. Okay? Everyone knows that's bad. But as far as the conversation around her, I'm sure there's some horrible things. But whenever you're this far off your rocker, I don't really know what you expect. Let me just read a few of her tweets. She, of course, is watching the DNC from Hassan's stream. She says, caught up with, she retweeted a post that says, caught up with Hassan about his experience covering the DNC, which means that the Harris campaign is giving online creators top press credentials, and why he nonetheless got booted from his studio suite on the final day of the convention. She's tweeting out a bunch of stuff like this. She's tweeting out stuff about Israel committing genocide. She tweeted out a tweet saying, when your friends realize how pathetic Gamergate 1.2 is. And then she also made this strange post on, I don't know what game this is, but she says, came home tipsy last night and got on Dress to Impress. Okay, that's what it is. And got first place back to back. Is this the secret to besting children? More at 11. And it's her doing like a dance on the ground with her like character's ass out, like not wearing like short pants. It's a really strange game, and it's a really strange tweet. So she has stuff like that on here combined with things about, she retweeted this black woman that's talking about why the new Star Wars series got canceled because the main character is black, and then we have just all this stuff. She's kind of a little bit of a lol cow in herself. So.
Yeah, I'll maybe have to look into it. Why? Whenever I look her name up, there's also like a bunch of images saying like, it says Alyssa Merchant just DM'd my wife. Is that like a meme?
So there was a guy that was talking about her on a podcast, and he was obviously like a very traditional conservative guy. And she found his wife.
Oh no!
And we're gonna keep him vague to keep his protection. She found his wife on like Facebook, I think. She messaged her. She said, "Did you know your husband did this?" She sent her the video of her husband talking like that, and just like basically tried to like
ruin his relationship,
like ruin his marriage. Yeah, just very like honestly lolcow behavior.
That's like that's like straight evil behavior. Honestly, that's like
and she's like retweeting like trans women that look like they've won a beauty contest and.
Gosh, this person just looks like whenever you think of a liberal woman, you just think of this.
Yeah, she has like a tattoo of like 1990 tattooed under her breasts. Just odd. I'm assuming that's the year she was born.
Yeah.
She's retweeting people saying that the new Star Wars is DEI pick, but then she also has all these pictures of just like her chest, like whenever she's going to the beach. To be honest, there's not much to show off, just to be 100%, so whatever, but yeah, this is...
She like always keeps her hair short, but yeah, as soon as I looked her up, I was like, oh yeah, I know this chick, because I watched I think I watched a video about like Gerard, and it showed like G4 footage, and I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
It had her in it, obviously, so.
I think this is the same chick that went on that rant. With Gerard?
Yeah, with Gerard. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was when Yeah, it is. She had Kotaku editor. That's who she is. Let me confirm. Yeah, this is the same chick. Yep. She is fascinating. Honestly, I like keeping up with her, like, just on the side. Obviously, I can only handle so much of this at once without just wanting to focus on anything else.
Yeah.
But, yeah. She's kind of like a little bit of a...
And she also went after Nick Merckx and posted like an unflattering picture of him being, and then like Tim the Tap Man next to him being like, whenever your homie's got allegations against him, but you gotta get your tan or whatever. And then like she posted a tweet where he's like, I got banned for using the blank word on Twitch, and apparently that's a derogatory term. Next time I'll use mental health disorder.
Oh my.
Based. And also, I didn't know, but I guess Nick Merckx is now on Kick.
I can see that. I think my guy was pushed to start saying more wild and wild stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's like pictures of her like making out with women. She really likes this children's game too. Whatever this game is that she won this beauty contest in, I don't understand. I don't even.
She's like a lolcow in and of herself. I think we gotta like look into her more.
Yeah, no, I think we should. So this is probably one of my favorite tweets. So I don't know if you've ever seen. I know I haven't, but there's a movie called Prometheus that released in 2012, and she's like, it's obviously a horror movie. The chick is covered in blood. She's like has a tied T-shirt around her boobs and like another one around like her lower part. And she goes, this is one of the cunty looks I've ever... First off, this doesn't make sense. This is the one cunty looks I've ever seen in horror cinematic history. She's insane. Okay. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't even know what's happening.
I think this one's my favorite. What?
She's just fascinating.
Huh. Yeah. No, I think this is one of my favorite things. It says, hi, a few things. Never was a stripper but love strippers. 2, this quote is from a book, the second half of which is on my other leg. DM for glute workout. And then on her leg, it says, on the back of her leg, of course she's showing off her butt in this picture, but it says, all men are enemies, all animals are comrades. This is like true fatherless behavior, bro.
Okay, and then all the girls that follow her are just insane.
This is why if you ever have a daughter, make sure you're in her life, okay?
Yeah. And then all these girls that follow her that obviously have paid for the blue check mark because no one cares about them. They've got like this... Oh gosh, they're all talking about like getting off to horror movies. So I guess it's a good thing. I guess it's a good thing that she's the cuntiest. I don't even understand. Cuntiest character she's ever seen. And then she has like thirsting, like old Keanu pictures from whenever he played hockey whenever he was like 20. Real cowboys ride okay. Wait, what? This is fascinating.
Wow. Yeah,
oh my gosh.
I definitely have to look into her more. That's funny. But you want to get on to our next story?
Damn, she's shaming a woman for not dressing nice, and she's like, I'll help. Wow, lovely. Lovely person. What a fascinating person. Okay, that's enough of that. My brain is rotting. Yeah. I wasn't expecting to look at that many tweets. But yeah, she's finally going through with her lawsuits against everyone that's talked shit. You know, pretty cringe. Probably not going to win.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of something that's maybe a little more hopeful.
Did on a good note, baby.
Yeah. The next Battlefield game is taking a less is more approach, which DICE says that everyone will win because of this. What I'm assuming what they're saying is, so Battlefield 2042 came out, and they mainly made it for the 128 player mode.
Of course.
But in this next Battlefield game, they're going to focus strictly on 64-player matches, and enhance the map quality. Instead of making the maps large open spaces, they're going to try to make them, I'm assuming, more kind of close and more infantry combat based.
Should have been.
Can't speak. Reporters also, some of the leaks that have been coming out, have been saying that the game will be sometime in between 2025 and 2030. I've heard more that it's more likely going to be in the 2030s. But another big thing is that all 4 of the classes are coming back, which is definitely a welcome change. And then lastly, they're going to be looking at actual evolution mechanics. And because of the smaller player count, hopefully the servers will be hopefully the matchmaking times will be a little faster. And
why are they all holding World War II guns?
Huh? Oh, that's just the image from Battlefield 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I hope this new game is gonna be better. We don't know any other details. There's very, very little about this game so far. Other than that, we know that it's coming out either 2025 or 2026.
Okay.
But I'm hoping that it kind of brings back the Battlefield 4 vibes. Hopefully it doesn't bring back those 2042 vibes, you know. But
no. Well, something I'm very happy to see is 64 player matches. I don't know. They're saying it could help.
Yeah.
Or that could be it. And I actually agree. I think the 64 is a much more manageable player count for both their servers and for enjoyment, because they relied on making the maps so big for 128 players that they just turned out so bad. That's what I believe happened.
Yeah, I believe. Well, I think what happened too is like, they set out to make a big, ambitious game, and then the pandemic hit, right? And they had to kind of scramble around and figure out how to make this game within the next, year.
Right.
And they hobbled together 7 maps that were too big for. I think they were even too big for 128 players, and they were just too wide open. And by the time it was time for release, they couldn't change what they had already done.
Oof. Yeah. I agree. I think there was some massive scope creep that happened too.
Or the more cynical is they're just so lazy that they didn't care to like fix it or delay it at all.
Yeah, or they're still owned by EA, right?
Yeah.
Or EA was just so insistent on pushing it out that they just were like, well, fuck it. And we've seen like in Battlefield 5 where the CEO of DICE or whatever, he was like, if you don't like our game, don't buy it or whatever. And everyone didn't. So I can't remember what that was. It might have been Battlefield.
That was 5.
That was 5.
It was 5. Yeah.
So, they clearly have no issue telling everyone to fuck off. So I kind of agree with the more cynical side that sure, EA probably wanted them to push it out, but also they don't give a fuck. And they're like, well, we don't care about this series anymore.
Yeah. Also,
which is fine. Didn't stop making it.
Yeah. Would you like another game to be set in like World War II or World War I? Because I know we played Battlefield 1 and 5, but in my opinion, and this might be a hot take, but I actually didn't like Battlefield 1, and a lot of people like that.
I didn't either.
Game. Yeah, to me, I think the best setting for a game is like near future or modern, for Battlefield, and I think BF5 was by far the best that they could do with a World War II game, because they still had like a lot of the customization of like a more modern game, but it's obviously not as realistic, which I think some people care about. So I actually like Battlefield 5 over 1, which I know for a lot of people that's heresy, but
I do too. I think it plays better, even though the story is
yeah.
I fully agree. How do I feel? So you asked me, how do I feel about World War II or World War I setting? You know, I like it. I like that setting a lot. I'll say this: I don't like it for a Battlefield game. For a Battlefield game, I feel Battlefield does its best, like you said, modern weapons, modern machinery, modern story, because we've seen whenever they go back and make stories set in World War II or One, that they start adding in a bunch of, weird sci-fi things like magic prosthetics that work somehow, or
prototype weapons.
Yeah, prototype weapons, or women that weren't there, or just things like that. And I think Battlefield, and that's not enough to ruin a game on its own. I think Battlefield 1 and 5 both had the same issue of, because it was set in World War II, that you couldn't destroy vehicles as easily. Vehicles were strong as hell. The gameplay was just slower because a lot of the guns just sucked. A lot of them were single shot. Not all of them, but a lot of them are single shot. And then just the sound design and stuff wasn't up to par. I don't know. I prefer modern Battlefield. Now, I like World War II games, but I just think COD does it so much better. And no, I don't want one anytime soon. But eventually I would like another one, and one that's done right and done well. I think COD needs to really find its footing, though, in the modern age first, before we start doing things like that.
Yeah.
Because I think they're going to fumble it again, like they have recently.
Well, yeah, and I think if you ever... The thing with doing, like, historical things is, like, you either go for, like, an alternative reality, like Vanguard did, which I personally don't enjoy, but, I know there are a lot of people that probably enjoy that. Or you go with the, like, actual realistic. You can't like, try to do both, and I think the problem is whenever Battlefield does a older game like that, they try to do both, and that's the problem. You either stick to one or you go like one or two ways, right? You can't try to be in the middle about that. And I think that's why the modern games work, because we're actually living through those times, and so therefore, like, you can see how, or even like the future games, you can kind of see like how certain things could be possible, right?
Right. I also think it works better with vehicles and stuff, with modern vehicles. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah. I think that's about it for the podcast, boys.
I really like
you guys. Yeah, I think the new structure works better. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. It's been your boys. Peace.
Thanks.